I'm glad we could all make this work. I almost had to solo this, and I'm not sure, if music teaches us that once an artist goes solo, if the music gets better or worse, but I'm glad we don't have to deal with that situation. And welcome to another off-season D3 Datacast. Today we are we are pleased to welcome Mike Rejniak into the D3 Datacast big box. He's got the toothpick ready to go. As we did last summer, we have Coach Reg here on representing We Are D3. He's the head coach and general manager of We Are D3, and as we're recording this, 8 days away from TBT 2024. So we look forward to getting his insights onto their matchup and that. But Mike, we've talked with you before, and I don't know if there's anyone whose roles in life has intersected Division III basketball in as many ways as yours have. And one of those ways was as head coach at SUNY New Paltz. You were the head coach there for 6 years, stepping down after the 2016-2017 season. And New Paltz has been in the move because they are taking part in the conference shuffle. Thought, given your history at New Paltz, it might be interesting to get your take on their move from the SUNYAC to the NJAC.
Yeah, I saw that coming. When you saw some of the dominoes kind of fall to the east western side of the state, when Brockport and Geneseo kind of announced that they were going to be kind of bouncing. The conference of the SUNYAC is very difficult. Like, meaning New Paltz is on an island about hour and a half north of New York City. And we would have to travel all the way to Fredonia and Buffalo on bus, sometimes the day of, and that's an 8-hour ride. Like, that's like ridiculous. Like, when it comes to just conference. So it doesn't shock me that it happened. What does kind of shock me is the fact that they went to the NJAC, because now it's like New Jersey Athletic Conference plus one school in New York.
Yeah.
I think what is going to happen just across a lot of the sports, they're going to now the fish got bigger in the pond. Like, there's a couple really good women's basketball programs in that conference where I think New Paltz, it's been primarily New Paltz and Geneseo. The men's teams are going to be fairly similar, but just envision a whole team of Brockport, a whole conference of Brockport and Oswego's. So I don't think the bottom is too different than the top, outside of a couple. But it'd be interesting, from a travel viewpoint. They're saving a boatload of money on travel and hotels. So especially in the D3 landscape of budgets, makes sense. Skyline didn't have enough room for them because they have about 40 billion teams in that conference anyways. But now it's going to be interesting. What does Fredonia and Buffalo State do? They're probably going to be gone. Who knows what's going to happen with the North Country teams? I know Canton's now in that group. So just like we talk every year, the conference alignment and the dominoes being fall, it's pretty interesting. I think just overall, there's going to be a lot of rebranding, just as the years progress. I've heard some D1s looking to drop down to Division III. I've heard some D2s looking to drop down. I've heard some D2s look to go to Division I. So I think COVID created, now this is like the second aftershock of COVID, right? Where now schools that struggled for enrollment are either shutting down or changing alignments, all that types of stuff. It's just very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for New Paltz. In fact, they had previously announced their departure from the SUNYAC without any destination, right? But
they
were
just
very
like deuces.
Right. They were very clear about the motivation for that being not making those trips to Western New York, wanting to be a little bit more consolidated geographically. So that makes perfect sense for them. The NJAC is a solution to that. But it's very interesting that the NJAC took them, not so much that they took the NJAC. As you mentioned, this is the NJAC going beyond the state border of New Jersey. It's not, it's a average to large size conference already. I'm wondering what do you think were the motivations from the NJAC side to bring New Paltz in? Because from the outside, it seems like okay, you're making an exception to go
Mhm.
beyond the state of New
Yeah.
Jersey, and it's not like they were hurting for membership. So it seemed a little bit curious
I, I,
from that
my guess
perspective.
is they're probably going to rebrand it. It's not going to be just the New Jersey Athletic Conference. I bet you they've rebranded somewhere like, how Mac Freedom did Mac Freedom and Mac whatever they call themselves,
Commonwealth, yeah.
the Commonwealth. That's it. My guess is they'll kind of go into something like that, rebrand it. They'll probably pull in maybe one or two others. They wouldn't have done this move if they already have another one kind of waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
I I bet you there's going to be maybe one or two more. Um, but it's strictly money related, brand related. Selfishly, from a basketball perspective, they're already a multi-bid league, typically.
Yeah.
So it's not that much of a motivating factor for them to kind of boost their kind of rep, because I do think they have a good rep in D3 basketball. I think it's more budget related and growing the brand. And, my guess is there's probably another New York school, maybe one of those Long Island or from the Skyline that they'll put in.
That would be interesting for sure. So anyway, one of the reasons we love talking to you is because you've, like Zach said, you've touched everything in Division III. You have perspectives on everything in Division III. You're not strictly a Division III coach anymore, so you can tell us, what you really think. You don't have to do coach speak anymore.
I don't have to be PC.
Right. You don't have to be politically correct about anything. But obviously, we want to talk to you today a lot about We Are D3, the TBT game coming up here later this month in July. That's, to me, like one of the crowning moments of the offseason in D3 world is seeing your team compete. But We Are D3 as a brand, I think, is more than just the TBT team and the TBT game. You guys just had a pro combine in New York City, I believe it was, recently. So tell us a little bit about what you're building with We Are D3 as a whole and what you're accomplishing and trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason why we started the TBT thing was to give better opportunities for Division III players post grad, so that when I was at Amherst, I was fortunate to coach some really awesome players. And I just remember doing that process. And even with my time at New Paltz, we had a couple where they were very talented to play, overseas, but the looks weren't there just because of the stigma of Division III basketball. So then that kind of really provided me, with an opportunity to start, We Are D3 in the TBT. Then as the years have progressed, I wanted to continue to get more opportunity, because for the team, I can only take 10 to 12, and there's even more, especially with kind of what we're seeing now with transfer portal players going up to Division I, and there's even more players that deserve more exposure. So, as we were talking, started about 2 years ago, wanting to provide an experience like a pro combine where we could even like not have our successes of We Are D3 just tied to one game or two games in the summer, but to make it almost like a brand where now we're kind of the intermediary between college and the pro level, and we're helping getting you there. Last year we didn't do it because I really wanted this year to go. I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to rush it. So we kept it this year. We spent a year planning, brought in 32 guys, and it was absolutely awesome. The talent level was through the roof. We took a couple players from the combine to our We Are D3 team, so that provided an opportunity. As of right now, not only did I think we have currently players that didn't have contracts, we're at close to 10 that now have contracts, and multiple have signed with agents. Even a couple players, that had eligibility left, because it's not an NCAA violation. It's everybody pays everybody. So like we had even some undergrads that had years of eligibility. One from UW Whitewater transferred from, had a great time, and now he's playing at St. Thomas with Coach Maker and company over there that I know. So it was just a really good, awesome experience. I look forward to building it next year to maybe two sites. We've talked about Boston and New York City, just because that's where a lot of the Division III landscape is. I would love to get to in the Midwest too as well.
Yeah.
For
Grand
an
Rapids,
opportunity.
Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Grand Rapids,
we know a pretty
Michigan.
good facility in Grand Rapids. That would be a
I
perfect
like
hub
that.
for
I
we are
like that
D3 Midwest.
100%. I'm there. So like kind of, that's what we're looking at doing, a Midwest, and then maybe another one just to provide more opportunities for the guys, so that they are getting that exposure needed, because I do think our division offers so many high level octane players, and when you get to TBT, like I said, I can only take 10, and we're talking a span of 15 years of players that I could take. I think if 30, if you count Jeff Gibbs' career, because he's still like going on from Otterbein and he's still rocking and rolling. So like there's the pool is just bigger for me to choose from. But for those players that are graduating, we're becoming like the primo brand to provide that opportunity for Division III basketball players. We even talked about expanding it to the women's side as well.
So let me ask you this. What's the path right now? If there's a player, maybe they're a senior going into their senior year and they think they want to play pro afterwards, what's their path to joining the D3 umbrella, to working with you guys? Is that something where you already are aware of them? You're already scouting the D3 players, or they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, typically it's both, really. Like, I'm always an open book. You guys can DM me or whatever. But like, you guys know, like, we watch a lot of D3 basketball, so we got our hands kind of in, and voting. I have to watch a lot of teams, so like I'm pretty much aware of who's aware, but who needs to be aware of. But like, we have players like reach out to us that I completely forgot about, like that were maybe a year out and then wanted to kind of they took the corporate job but wanted to go play pro again. They got tired of it. They reached out. We had them. I think reaching out to me as quickly and as early as possible, so that you're on our radar, and then we fill you in with kind of what's going on, and we'll give you the invite, and we'll help you out, and kind of really, because navigating that, when I was a coach, even a lot of my coaching colleagues, they don't know what to do when the graduation happens. They know, like, hey, we should probably get an agent, but how do we go about getting the agent that's going to be good and represent the player? Because now we're talking business. It's not college anymore. It's business. And then also how to navigate that agent working with the athlete to find them a good contract to go play overseas, where they're not just eating like ramen noodles. So like, it's like a lot of that business side of things. My staff and I, Jay Harris, David Clark, we've really immersed ourselves within that now, and we got a pretty good handle on it to help navigate those players to get to where they need to be. I can talk with my coaching buddies and help them out there, but basically, like, reach out to us. Like, we're here to help.
All right, so moving into TBT, stands for the basketball tournament. It's a summertime March Madness style 64 team tournament. A lot of the teams are maybe alumni teams from last year. Like, you guys got matched up against an alumni team from the University of Kansas. And took them down to the wire in what was really a bounce back performance, I'd say, for We Are D3, after what was, probably you would say a disappointing TBT
Absolutely.
showing in 2022. I'm wondering, that was a game against, a Kansas alumni team, a blue blood D1 program, that you guys, led that game through much of the game. How much of that was a disappointment then to ultimately not win that game, but also kind of reinvigorate you? Because I get the sense that you weren't necessarily disappointed by the showing in 2022, but more motivated by it. And I think, win or lose, the performance that you guys had against Mass Street last year, it just was validation of that motivation. And we'll talk about it, but I think paid dividends going into this TBT.
I think, like, well, I thought, because we have to be accepted into TBT. They have to want us. So after the disappointment 2 years ago in Wichita, which there was a lot of different factors, my coaching wasn't the best. We had players that were injured. Just overall, it was just a hodgepodge, and it was pretty disappointing. We kind of hit the reset button, blew the team up. I really kind of keyed in on what our personalities wanted to be, and who we wanted to be as a player and what the division should represent. And I think we really kind of locked in and really found a blueprint that works, which is something for me. I've been working to kind of navigate that and find what exactly blueprint does work for TBT and kind of that level. Because there's a difference when you're going against D3 All-Americans versus top 5 NBA draft picks. There's a whole gene pool that I am not a part of that I don't understand that is just out there. And how do we combat that? And so was it disappointing? Absolutely. I've had to sit on it for a year. But it was invigorating in the fact that I did feel pressure going into that game because I was like, if we don't perform well, they might not have us back. So, like, I wanted it more than anything for the players to continue to evolve and continue to produce ourselves, whether we're an 8 seed or not. We still got to perform. But I thought that team gave everything. They allowed me to coach them. They allowed to buy into the mantra of the team, and a majority of them are back, which is great. So, like, I'm looking forward to even building on kind of what we did last year, this year.
You had kind of a semi-viral moment during halftime of last year's game. The ESPN cameras came in the locker room, and you say things that we're not allowed to say on D3 Datacast, but you mentioned, hey, we're playing with house money, right? We've proven that we can hang with Kansas, essentially, right? We're playing with house money. Interesting that ultimately, they get a tip in the Elam ending and just clip you guys. But I think you proved that you belong, and I think TBT's now treating you that way with a little bit of a higher seed this year that we'll get into. Do you still feel that way? Like you were playing with house money in that second half? No matter what happened, you've kind of proved you belong.
I think because we just got for lack of a better term, we got our teeth kicked in 2 years ago, like right off the bat. We weren't even in Wichita. By halftime, I was already planning my flight home. So like it was like to go in there, like we're not talking about like Division I, like St. Bonaventure. We're talking about Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Kansas. It is like we aren't even supposed to be anywhere in the stratosphere of them. But I all the way down to that final possession, I made a sub on that free throw. Who would have ever thought that guy would have missed the free throw, and then it bounces off to go to an offensive rebound? It's like one of those things where, like, when you foul when you're up 3 and you still lose the game,
yeah.
It's like that. It's like the perfect, like the basketball guys are like, hey, we gave you your cookies, but see you later. So I think like that's where, yeah, it was house money, but I think now with this year's, now we got the chips. We're playing with our own money now, and so we gotta make wise investments, and we gotta produce.
And so going forward, as always, you've got a group of returning players, and you've got a group of new players to the We Are D3 TBT team. Starting with the returning players, we see what's listed on the TBT site. We've kept up with the really cool roster announcements that you guys did on social media. So hopefully we've got this right. Correct us if there's any errors or omissions here. But returning players, there's Adam Fravert from UW Oshkosh, Demetrius Underwood, whose D3 path took him through Texas Dallas, Josh Treadwell from Rutgers Newark, Malik Lorquette, UMass Boston, Ty Nichols from Keene State, and Marcus Azor from UMass Dartmouth. Hopefully that's right. And I just wondering if you could talk through kind of the returning players, because I imagine in some sort you kind of think about that as like your core group, right? They've got experience with you, with TBT, with representing We Are D3 on the court there. Just tell us a little bit more about the returning group there.
Yeah, I mean, just collectively as a whole, like there's obviously there's a lot of other pros out there that we could take on. And this goes for the newbies too, but this group of returners, the quickest way to my heart is if you play defense and you care, and you can't just play one side of the ball with me. That's just my philosophy. And I think those players returning prove that. And they've done it with me for multiple years, like Fravert, Lorquette. Like, we started, and he's fresh out of UMass Boston just because he's the type of kid that you'll go in a foxhole with. Same with Azor, same with Underwood, same with Nichols. These are guys that, quote unquote, like, are junkyard dogs. Like, you're cool, because they'll fight. They're not going to crumble with who's in front of them, which is something that's when I'm looking at players to bring on to TBT, that is one of the biggest things in my mind. Like, I'm assuming you can score, just like if I recruit in college. I'm assuming you can score, but are you willing to do the other things, like when a stadium of 10,000 is against us, and you're going up against the 2018 top 7 pick in the NBA, you're not going to crumble. And you really have that self-confidence and self-awareness, along with wanting the best, what the best is for the team, then absolutely you're with us, and I'm bringing you back. And those were the players that I really wanted to make an effort to not only showcase them again for the world to see, but also just to let them know how much I value them and how much that they've invested for the division, but also for the team as well. So I was very excited to have that group back, because I think that they're really the core of who we are. And with these new pieces, they'll teach some of the new guys on the scene as well.
Well, I think it says a lot about the experience that these guys are getting when they're part of the We Are D3 team in TBT. Because despite not having the payoff of a win yet in We Are D3's history, and the commitment level, frankly, that it takes for them individually to take part in this, that you always have a solid group coming back. And I think it always also speaks well that you've always got, seemingly a fresh group that wants to take part. So real quickly, running through the new players to the roster, we have Jackson Mishanik from Hobart, Hank Morgan from Hamilton, Alex Sobel from Middlebury, who of course played this last season at D1 Sacred Heart, Daquan Davis from Arcadia, who also has experience at Albany, Jeff Hunter from Keene State, Tom Quarry, friend of the program at Johns Hopkins, Isaiah Gathers from Lehman, and Kyler Stork from Eureka. Tell us about this new group of We Are D3ers.
Hank Morgan will not be with us.
Okay.
Just because of NCAA stuff, which I'll digress in another podcast. But overall, like, when it comes to just the newbies, these are players that I had on my radar for a while. Gathers was one that wasn't necessarily on our radar. We knew about, but he came to the pro combine, showed up, did well. I was like, come aboard, dude. I'd be an idiot not to take you. Some of the players we've tracked for a while, like Sobel, I was hoping we would get him last year, but then he went Division I to Sacred Heart. Hunter, I've always talked about Ty Nichols playing with Hunter, the two Keene State staples, and kind of bringing them together on one team. And Ty's really looking forward to that. Same with Jeff. Quarry, I laugh about this. When I first saw Quarry coming out of high school, I was still in college coaching. I actually didn't like him. I saw him at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning in New Jersey. I was like, this kid just is sticking bones like my toothpick. There's no way he's gonna do anything. And then lo and behold, this was one of the ones that I was probably the most wrong with of my entire life. He's put in a tremendous amount of work at Johns Hopkins and really developed himself, matured as an athlete and as a person. I love the kid. I'm punching myself, my 2017 self, for not really being all in on him. But yeah, you win some, you lose some. Really, Mishanik's going to be interesting because he was one that wasn't going to be with us, but then we had a roster spot drop and just kind of I was going through, we have a whole big database of players that, if somebody drops to look into, and he was on there. And I spoke with Tim Sweeney, his former coach at Hobart, that day, in a completely unrelated conversation. And, we were talking about just college stuff. And he brought up Jackson's name, and he goes, "You'd be an idiot not to take him." And I was like, "Coach Sweeney, well, that's the easiest endorsement that I ever need, because this is kismet, because I need a spot." And so things like that just happen. It's like anything. But with this new group, we got some great length. I think between Jackson, Kyler, Stork, and Corey, you're looking at 6'7" across that can shoot threes. And now you add in the two big boys with Jeff Hunter and Alex Sobel, which are two completely different types of bigs. And then you add in like a great ball handler like Daquan Davis, who carved his really sharpened his teeth at Arcadia, and then went to Albany and had a great season there. And then you add in more of like the personality of a CUNY athlete, player of the year, like an Isaiah Gathers. Like, it's really fun for me to coach this group. It is really, I'm really looking forward to it, because the personalities involved are going to be pretty unique, and seeing it all come together is going to be unique as well.
Hey, let me ask you this. A lot of your roster is players who have at least a year or two of pro experience, if not a little bit more. You do have some guys who are more fresh out of college. When you're looking at the TBT and your matchup, is it more difficult for a player to go directly from a D3 season to go into TBT versus having that year maybe professionally playing against old men who just maybe play the game a little bit differently? Is that a factor when you're putting together the roster, or you're looking at rotations or anything like that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think no matter how much you think you're prepared, to go against grown men is a whole different beast. These are guys that have grinded overseas to pay for groceries, kids. This is real life stuff. So they treat it very seriously. So a 21-year-old going against a 29-year-old that's been through the gauntlet, vastly different. So that does factor in 100%. I will say this though, like, because of the COVID years, and with, for instance, Sobel and Daquan Davis, even though Daquan played Ireland last year, but Sobel, he's ready. He's ready for the moment. It's not like he's just fresh coming out of Middlebury. He's played against some really high end talent. He's an older, quote unquote, rookie. But I think like that is 100% a big factor with us, because it's just different. Like Favor 4 years ago or 3 years ago, however long he's been with us, it took him almost like 3 TBTs to adjust to the player of where he was and where I knew he could be. And last year he did show up. So like, I think that is a big part of the evaluation where, hey, you primarily got, I tell so many people that want to be with us, hey, you got to get some more seasoning overseas, because you're talented now, 100%. I love you and I respect you, but you need some more experience to be with us. Because like it goes back to that whole foxhole thing. You gotta go through the grind a little bit.
All right, you mentioned kind of reshaping the roster heading into 2023. I think you did a little bit of tinkering heading into 2024. If I'm correct, you maybe made some comments on the Not Even D2 podcast about, in particular, the way you're thinking about or rostering bigs is maybe a little bit different than in the past. So obviously the names Alex Sobel and Jeff Hunter stick out to me in that regard. I was just wondering some more thoughts on, that roster construction as it pertains, or maybe your change in thinking about the center position.
Yeah. I think like, well, you having to sit on a year of losing on an offensive rebound, you kind of key in and you're like, yeah, I think we need some more rebounding. But but Jeff and Sobel were two, just because I've watched them for years. Those are two guys that I knew I wanted when they were like sophomores. I knew that they would eventually, and especially at this division, having bigs that can walk and chew gum is awesome. Like we just don't get that. You typically get the Mechanics, you get the Quarries, the 6'7" shooters, but you don't get the prototypical bigs that, because they're going to typically take scholarship and go to the higher level. So when it came to them being available, that was a no-brainer. Like I was talking with them over a year and a half ago. Hey, when you're ready to rock, you just send the bat signal and we'll be happy to have you. I watched them obviously all this year. I watched Sobel play at Sacred Heart this year, all this types of stuff, to see their growth and development. They're both have only started scratching the surface in terms of where they can be, because they're going to have a long pro career, just because of their mentality, their abilities, because they are two different types of bigs. But I think it allows us to kind of move and shape with kind of whatever matchup we're anticipating and facing. Because I do believe that we're not going to be playing just one game this year. I think like literally you have to now think something that we've never had to really realistically think about is long-term projection. And so like that's kind of interesting to think about, which has been fresh. But also a little bit, scary in those regards, where you have to really start to think about long-term, not just one team, not just one game, but long-term.
Yeah, and let's get into that because that makes a lot of sense. So for the in years past, it's like you guys are an 8 seed, you got to go up against one of the top seeded teams. Of course, last year it was the D3 little guys against the Kansas alumni team, led by Thomas Robinson, top 5 NBA draft pick. And I'll be honest, watching that game, I think Thomas Robinson, did you guys a lot of favors by not playing as much bully ball as he could have, because there were times during that game when he decided he wanted to get something, he was going to get it. And
I
maybe
slipped him
didn't.
a 20 before the game.
Yeah, he maybe didn't do that as much as he could have or should have. But things are different this time around. You guys are a 4
Yeah.
seed, which means, in the eyes of TBT, you're the favorites in this game. No, this isn't the we are D3 little guy underdogs, all right? This is 4 seed, team going up against the 5 seed Sweet Home Alabama. And no, this is not a Crimson Tide alumni team. This is a team made up of basketball players with ties to the state of Alabama. And looking over their roster again, you're not seeing the former top 5 NBA draft pick. You're not even seeing guys that played at a lot of like blue blood Division 1 programs. To be honest, it looks like a lot of players like you guys have, right? Guys who played at schools that are maybe not household names and have experience overseas. So I guess what can you tell us more about your matchup against Sweet Home Alabama, and just the different dynamic of at least by seeding being the favorite here.
Yeah, a seed is always supposed to lose to a 1 seed. Always. That's why they seed. Now we're favored. And so like now it's a different type of pressure for us, right? Like, so now we've been 0-5. TBT did us a solid with kind of our resume throughout the years to give us quote unquote a matchup that is more equal and level, so that we can get some momentum, because I think we have proven that not just last year, but against Syracuse, against UCLA, and Challenge ALS. And I think like we have represented well outside of the hiccup against Wichita. But I think that's where going up against an equal, I'll take that obviously any day of the week. Because I know what we have. I know what the staff does and the preparation that we do. Doesn't mean that we're taking Sweet Home Alabama lightly any stretch of the imagination. If anything, I'm taking them even more seriously than I did Kansas. Because now, like you said, we're the 4 seed. We got to represent. And realistically in TBT, I don't know if we are ever going to get a higher seed than 4. Honestly, because now we're talking about, okay, you got Kentucky, okay, being in the TBT, Kansas, you got Arkansas, you got the actual Alabama somewhere, you got Ohio State, you got the Heartfire, which is they won this whole thing last year. So like you got all these teams that are like the bluest of the blue bloods, and then for us to get a 4 seed, I'm very appreciative and thankful to TBT to finally recognizing us and the hard work that my staff and I and the players have put forth. But now, like you said, like the pressure is on. We are favored, new territory for us. And so like it's one of those things where now I am laser focused on Sweet Home Alabama and what they got going on. So that I give my staff and I give the players as best a chance as we possibly can provide so that we can compete and ultimately get the win on Saturday the 20th.
All right, yeah, you mentioned it. The game will be Saturday, July 20th at noon Eastern. If I am looking at the schedule right, it looks like the TBT television rights have switched from ESPN to Fox Sports, and perhaps your game is going to be a streaming only as opposed to airing on one of the Fox, Fox Sports 1 or whatever that. We'll check on that, include a link and the information in the show description. In new territory for you as well. Instead of playing in Wichita as you have the last couple of years, you'll be in Dayton. How does that change your preparations and different venue?
Metropolises.
Hey, we're used to that in the D3 world, right? We go to all the big places like Fort Wayne, Indiana.
That's right. And all these great vacation spots. My wife was looking; she's going to be there with my kids. She was looking at what to do, and there's a really cool Air Force museum, but that's pretty much it. No, and I think like that was also. When talking with TBT after last year, I was like, I don't care where you got to send us. Tell us where to go and we'll go wherever that may be. We'll figure it out. And we've been very fortunate enough to have sponsors like the Hardy Strong Foundation, who's been with us since day one, to support us. Justin's dad, Bob, and his mom have been so supportive of us. That I'm so appreciative of them, and because realistically, without them, this doesn't also go on, and they've trusted me and my staff and the players, and then also Coach Up stepped up to help us out as well, and we got some other, small time sponsors. So like. People like Hardy Strong, Coach Up, Action Palace, which believe it or not is like a billiard room in Dayton that wanted to help us out. Awesome. Like I love the name Action Palace. It's great. But like those little things, like, it might be to a Kentucky $5,000 might be nothing, but to us it's everything. And I think like that's where we've been very fortunate because it allows us to play in a town like Dayton where we have no ties. Nothing it's not like Wichita, we had David Clark, who's an assistant with us. He was an AD there. So he had all these ties and things like that. Dayton, we don't know anybody. So like, to get a gym, Airbnbs, meals, all that stuff, that takes a lot of legwork and gear like this, like Coach Harris, like is designing logos for us and everything like that. Like it is truly, we are D3 is a mom and pop operation. When I say it is like, but going to Dayton, I'm excited to kind of play in the UD Arena. I'm excited to see what that looks like. We got a couple scrimmages kind of lined up that I'm looking forward to seeing us compete against some of the other teams in the area. But I think it's going to be a really cool environment, and we'll see how it shakes out because. Ultimately, it's not just going to be a one-game stay for us. So we'll see however that may be.
All right, so if it's not going to be a one-game stay, let's look ahead to a potential second-round game. This is the big one. This is a little bit more like what you have traditionally faced in the first round. Looming in that bracket, the number 1 seed, Heartfire is the defending champions. They were awesome last year. if you are fortunate enough to make it through that first round, they are very likely your second round opponent. Uh, your thoughts on the potential for taking on Heartfire?
Well, I'll take the fifth, like a true coach in those regards, not to look ahead. But yeah, the TBT is hard. Every it is a really hard tournament to not only compete in, but get a W in, and then furthermore make a run in. I told my kids the other day, I was like, when we get the win, whenever that is, could be this year, could be next year, whoever knows. I probably will cry like a baby, and then I got Heartfire kind of waiting for me probably after that. And who knows? I might be crying in a different way because of them, because they're heavy hitters. But realistically, like they're a juggernaut looming, but you got to go through them all anyways. If truly where we want to get to be, like in a realistic scenario, like if I'm being completely honest, I believe we can make a run in this tournament, but there does need to be an element of luck that we've been on the wrong side of. So I have been taking receipts, and I might cash them in Dayton. But that's the fun thing about this tournament. It's like, when we were watching the NCAA's this year, who would have ever thought certain teams would have made that Final Four that made that Final Four? I mean, we kind of knew maybe one or two of them, but like I think like that's the fun of being a part of a NCAA type of tournament. The Elam ending is very different thing to coach in. I think if I was like allowed to do the timeouts and things like that, we probably would have a couple more wins. Like I'm pretty sure I would have coached. We would have coached Kansas in that final 2 minutes, and we would have won. We would have stretched out the game. We would have won. Same with Syracuse. I think that those two in particular, those are situations where my staff and we would have coached the team to the victory. But Elam ending is different, where now you're relying on the personalities of your players and things like that, because my hands are tied. But Heartfire, unbelievable juggernaut. I pretty much watch Raphael Putney. Like they're like they might be the best old man's team ever on the planet. Like Raphael Putney was at UMass like back before like AOL. Like he was like he's awesome, and I'm a huge fan of him. I grew up in Western Mass. But these are guys that are seasoned vets. So kind of go back to earlier, a kid fresh out of college going against Raphael Putney. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't care what level. Like, good luck to you, sir. So those types of things. But yeah, we got a juggernaut waiting for us potentially in the next round if we are so fortunate to get the dub in round one.
You mentioned, and we know you will get that win at some point. I think we're hoping and thinking it can be this year. Got a great shot at it. What would it mean for the We Are D3 brand or the division in general to get that win on the stage like the TBT and kind of just elevate what you're doing overall, not just this team, but We Are D3 as a whole, elevate at that level?
I truly believe this, and people might think I'm crazy, but I think it'd be a victory for literally all of us. Like for you guys and what you do, for D3 Hoops and what they do, the Datacast. Like all of us grind, and we're all considering. We all tell people over and over again, Division III basketball, there really is not a difference. And to finally get the monkey off of our back in those regards. I'm sick and tired of getting the participation trophy. Now I want the actual trophy, because we got a shot. And I think like for us, that means a lot for us to continue to keep this train going, to provide better opportunities for our athletes, like strictly from a win. Selfishly, that gets us maybe some more sponsorship money next year, where we can now run another combine or two, and just to provide, like, we're talking about now also starting to change trajectories of players, where they're not having to go play in some random like Romania prison, where they can actually really have a great experience and get the respect that they deserve. all just based off of one W. When you're playing in front of that type of audience, it can be pretty impactful. Because now we're not just talking about one win. Now we got another game to showcase our talents against whoever. So like the pressure for this game, like I said, I'm more keyed in on Sweet Home Alabama. I have been ever since the seedings got announced, way more than I was against Kansas. That may be where like I try and outfox a fox or whatever, but I'm going to be as prepared as possible for this because I believe it is a great opportunity for the division because I know how much it means for us as a community, but also for the players and ultimately the brand, which is, what we started, now 6 years ago.
All right, take us through the week leading up to the game. When do you guys assemble as a team in Dayton? You mentioned having a couple of scrimmages. I think usually you guys like to have a little bit of a training camp. What's the timeline like leading up to the game on the 20th?
Yeah, so we've already had meetings as teams via like Zoom recordings because we're kind of all over the place in different parts of the world. So like the players already know what offense we run. They already know the defense. They already know all that. That's already in place. Because you do have a finite time. Like we're gonna start. I drive out. It's about a 9-hour drive from New York to Dayton, 9.5. So I'm driving out tomorrow, which would be Saturday. We'll start practice on Sunday, and then we're kind of going through all the way throughout up until game time. Kind of having to navigate it is different just because you got to always anticipate what if and what not and things like that. And if we do win, what do we do here? And if we do lose, what do we do here? Or potential. So we've had to make some adjustments this year that we haven't had in the past. But like we'll be out there. Players are all staying together in a couple Airbnbs. Got all that squared away. We'll all be having team dinners. And we're practicing 2 times a day. Fortunately, to have that group of returners come back, they already kind of know what we do and kind of that having that camaraderie, I think is important. But I think also having the fresh blood in the group is important as well. And I think the scrimmages kind of really, I love it because it's really getting our barometer of where we are. Like last year, it really provided. If we didn't have those scrimmages, I probably would have played different lineups and things like that, which I'm not sure if we would have gotten the best out of what we could have been. Because I think it really showed who could perform and who struggled at times and things like that, and who we felt as a staff we could put out the best team together. Like I really don't care how many points you scored overseas or whatever. It's can you be collectively as a team because that's more important. So, in short, Sunday, all the way through, we got practices at local high school and a local college with a couple of scrimmages in between, team bonding types of dinners, all that types of stuff. Like it's basically like we're compiling a whole D3 season into a week and a half. So, we got to do a lot of bonding. But like that's the fun part about it. And, fortunately, these are guys that I've had a relationship with for at least over a year. So they know me. They kind of know what I expect. They accept all my toothpicks and everything, and they're ready to go. And I'm very fortunate enough that the staff and the players trust me. Because I did offer like, hey, if you guys want me to step down, I'm fine, whatever. But to have that trust from them means the world. And I look forward to going to battle with them.
Well, we appreciate your time. It's always great to get together with you. Looking forward to doing that at a Final Four here sometime soon, we hope.
Dude, they're all together. Did you see that? Like they're all coming togeter for Indianapolis one year.
The championship game, yeah, 2026.
Yeah, so I'll definitely be there for 2026, but I will be there. I promise this year, and I promise I'll be there this year. I promise.
Well, last year on this very podcast, you promised as well, and then you were not there. So
I'm kind of like the guy that will always be like, "Yeah, we're definitely going to hang out." we're definitely going to hang out. Definitely.
We understand real life happens in times and other things come up. But we look forward to seeing you and your toothpick on the sidelines of TBT. It's one of the highlights of our summer is getting to cheer on the We Are D3 team. I feel like, they're not necessarily the players from my school or my region all the time, but they're D3 guys, so they're my guys for sure, and I love seeing them out there. Those guys we've watched on the little live streams now on ESPN or Fox Sports or whatever is so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that. And like I always love having you guys and the having you guys in our community has been absolutely awesome. And I love the content that you guys produce, and I'm very fortunate enough to not only have you guys as colleagues but also as friends. And you guys I'm really appreciative of all the support that you've given us throughout the years. I can't say that enough. But you guys have like numbers to crunch or something like that?
There's always time for more numbers to crunch. We just released NPI, d3datacast.com/NPI. That should be the new system that's out there. Learn everything you can. Go ahead.
Love it. I will. I'll study up, man.
All right, Coach Reg, go get that dub.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Coach. We really appreciate Coach Reg, Mike Rejniak, joining us, talking about We Are D3. We always enjoy talking to him about Division III. We always enjoy supporting We Are D3 as part of TBT. If you would like to support the We Are D3 team, you saw Coach Rejniak with that awesome Dream Team-inspired We Are D3 shirt. They do have a merch store. Check out their social media pages. Zach, I think we'll have that link below, but you can purchase some of that merchandise for yourself as well. If you would like to support our show, you can go to patreon.com/D3Datacast and join our team here. We are thankful for all of our supporters who've supported us throughout the season, throughout the summer. Fall's just around the corner. We'll be picking back up weekly episodes in no time at all. So thank you so much for the support. We appreciate everyone who participates with us in creating these videos, keeping the data ad-free on d3datacast.com. We have new NPI data out there. The new selection metrics are live, kind of showing last year's data. We'll update that as we go in the future season with data. So excited to embark on that journey as well, Zach. It's going to be a great season ahead. But we don't want to wish away the summer. We don't want to wish away TBT. Hopefully they can get that win.
Hopefully they can, Matt. We will be cheering them on. And again, as you said, grateful to have a team of supporters cheering us on. That's all for now. Good job, team.